So per usual, skip to the timestamp in the description for the demo and a comparison in this case. So, you know, I think it's good to express your feelings and communicate, and I have very strong feelings about the quadraverb, and I feel like I need to communicate those feelings. So, I was used in the Hall of Fame as sort of a hardware reverb, and it's nice, it's adequate. It adds a nice stereo width to your signal, but there are a couple of things that bugged me about it. One was it's basically one algorithm. So whether you're selecting the hall or the plate or the church or the mod, it's really just one algorithm with different parameters as far as the reverb goes. And it just didn't feel like I was inside of a space when I was using this thing. You know, it's very subjective. You may feel differently, but that made me nostalgic for my old Miniverb 4. And I remembered I'd sold a friend an old Alesis unit a long time ago, and he graciously sold it back to me, and it's the best reverb ever made. It's the quadraverb. So I tricked it out, modified it all the heck, and then I found another cheap one on Craigslist for $50. So I went to a dark alley and I brought my cash with me, and I managed to survive that transaction. So now I've got two of these suckers. One of them's modded up, one of them's totally stock. So I'll do a comparison between them. And to talk about the mods, I need to go to Toastmasters or something, learn how to not say so much. It's got the noise reduction mod, so that changes these 4.7 microfarad decoupling caps for the op amps to 100 microfarad. Just a bigger supply decoupling cap, so pretty straightforward there. And then all the other electrolytics have been replaced. All the ones that this audio signal goes through are Nikon Muse. So whether that makes a difference, I don't know. But it's nice to have them in there. Makes me feel good. And it's got an OLED display that I upgraded to, which is a great upgrade. And I replaced all the op amps. So to talk about the op amps, you know, it's debatable whether it makes a big difference, but look at this. So this is the service manual for this thing. And it goes through 1, which is just a buffer, 2, 3, 4, which is just a buffer, 5, which is also just a buffer. But anyways, it goes through 5 op amps before it gets into the reverb. And then coming out of the reverb, it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4 op amps. So you're going through 9 freaking op amps. That's a lot of op amps. So, and then even the dry signal, which of course this thing has an analog dry, you're going through 1, 2, 3, 4 op amps. So stock this has the TL084, which is, you know, a fine op amp. Nothing too wrong with it, but when there are 9 of them cascaded, you gotta think that's gonna degrade the audio quality a little bit. So I took those out, desoldered them, and put in sockets. And so right now I've got OPA 4134s in there with the snazzy Burr Brown logo to match the PCM54 chip. And I'll do a comparison between these units and see if that made a difference. And then as far as the display goes, you can get a OLED display upgrade for the quadraverb on Reverb for $60, but I didn't feel like that was very fun. So I just ordered one directly from Crystal Fonts. So I got the CFAL1602C-B for blue, and you can also get a -G and a -Y and I think a -W, so you can guess what those letters mean. But I had to drill some holes in the display PCB to get it to fit in there, so it was a little bit ghetto, but it's in there solid now and it works just great. And when you do this, typically you have to swizzle a couple of wires on the ribbon cable. So if you don't know what you're doing and aren't very comfortable, you know, it's probably worth spending the $60 on the reverb upgrade kit that somebody's selling. But for me, I just didn't feel like that was fun because I didn't have to read any data sheets or something. So But yeah, that's all the upgrades. And just a couple of thoughts about the quadraverb in general. A couple of interesting chips. Each channel has actually a Curtis VCA on it, so that controls the amount of dry signal going through the unit. And also I think the Leslie effect actually uses these as an analog tremolo kind of thing, so kind of interesting to see an actual analog effect in a unit like this. I know the quadraverb GT actually has analog distortion on the input, so that's pretty cool too, I think. So that'd be a cool one to check out sometime. And I think the PCM54 is a really nice chip. So this is a 16-bit parallel digital to analog converter, and they're actually getting 2 channels of digital to analog conversion and 1 channel of analog to digital conversion out of this chip. So in order to get the 2 channels of DAC, they just use a sample and hold. So they kind of do the left conversion, then hold that voltage there, and then do the right conversion and hold that voltage there, and you know, just kind of let them go using the sample and hold circuit. So that's how they kind of mux out the 2 channels that way. And then to get the analog to digital conversion, they kind of ramp up the voltage at the output of the DAC every sample, and then a comparator that's going into the digital chip flips whenever it gets to the same level, whenever the DAC output gets to the same level as the analog voltage coming in. And the microprocessor looks at the timing of that to figure out what the level of the analog voltage coming in is. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know, this chip is in the FM7 and I think the MPC60 and in the Lexicon LXP series, and there's a really similar chip to this in the Lexicon PCM70. So, you know, a lot of times on like the fortunately to be renamed forum gear sluts, when you hear people use the phrase the converters when they're talking about old digital stuff, like they do 9,000 times whenever they talk about that, it's this chip or a chip very similar to it that they're talking about. So I think it's a pretty high quality chip that they're using for the conversion between analog and digital. So everything in here is really high quality. It's just, I think the op amps were kind of holding the unit back a little bit. So we'll do a comparison between these and see if that made a difference. Unfortunately, it won't be a perfect A-B comparison or apples to apples comparison, because this circuitry is a little bit different than this circuitry. You can see there's this 3 inductor component right there. I think that's the anti-aliasing filter that at some point they upgraded, because I think they were having aliasing problems. They say something about that in the service manual, like if you're using a high bandwidth synthesizer like the Roland D50, it can cause aliasing problems. So kind of interesting. I don't know. Anyways, I'll just do a demo. Here they are racked up. Give them some juice here. I think that's kind of cute when they go through the startup routine, the 2 different displays. So to do the A-B comparison, I've got a couple of splitters for the left and right channel, so they'll get exactly the same audio coming in. And then they go out to the mixer. There's one and the other one for the left and right, and then that comes out to the field recorder. And I'll use the sampler so that I get exactly the same sample for each unit, and I'll do a sample from the Juno 60 here and the MS-20. And yeah, to illustrate that they're both the same patch, I'll just walk through a couple of parameters here. So you get the idea. You know, I won't walk through all the parameters, but they're all the same. So here are the dry samples. I'll play those. Here's the first sample. kind of a vintage synth sound from the MS-20, and then here's some pads from the Juno 60 or some keys. So here's the modified one. And here's the unmodified one. And the second sample. So here's another patch. So hopefully that gives you an idea. I think there's a difference. It seems like this one's wetter and brighter, it seems, on the same patch than this one. And that could be mostly due to that different input circuit. I'd be kind of surprised if the difference was that big just on my op-amp swap and the capacitor swap. But and I did long reverbs for both of these compare patches because that's how I tend to use the quadraverb most of the time. But I don't know, hopefully that was interesting.